Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Jay Donovan.
Jeff Fischer.
Aaron Cook.
And I'm Todd Novak. Okay, this is our first actual podcast. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time. So we're just going to get into it with a little bit of why the heck we're doing this and what we hope to get out of it. We all go to lunch almost every day and talk about guitars and junk almost every day at lunch. And that's pretty fun. And the lunch isn't always great, but everything else is.
That doesn't matter.
So
we do eat every day.
Yeah, we do eat every day. So we thought, hey, let's continue this in where we don't have to eat and do a podcast. So obviously
Although
we're not.
I thought we were getting pizza.
Well,
Yeah.
Jeff was supposed to have.
Oh yeah.
We have plain water here to drink out of coffee mugs.
Warm water, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So look, there's a load of podcasts out there about guitars and gear and stuff, and there's some really great ones, and I think the really great ones have served as inspiration for us. I think we do a shout out to Guitar Nerds and to 60 Cycle Hum specifically. I think those ones have been a great influence on us, and we seem to find a nice niche to slide right in between them, as we're not experts on anything.
Hey, speak for yourself.
I mean,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. So we'll get into like why we think we can actually do this. So Jay, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, I'm a bass player and a wannabe drummer, like a make-believe drummer, make-believe guitarist, but primarily bass player. Play upright, play electric, had a boatload of different basses over the years, and a couple guitars too.
How long have you been playing?
Like, let's see, it would be 22 years, 22 years. 22, 25 years.
Did you start?
You know, somewhere between like 1 and 25 years.
That's a weird between, but
Well, I'm not good at that. I'm not very good at that.
So how did you get started on bass?
Well, I was a Beatles fan, right? So Paul McCartney is like the master, and somehow whenever I would listen to old records, you know, parents, sisters, old records, Beatles records, I was like, what's that like low thing going on there?
Right.
So I just kind of gravitated toward that. And
Safe to say, I mean, most people consider him as probably the most highly underrated or under-recognized bass player.
who, Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
I would say the most, I don't know, just like he wrote the textbook for rock and roll bass early on. So he's the governor.
Yeah, but when people are saying like, oh, what's your top 5 bass players? Like,
He's not like some technical.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, so he wrote the book on that, but he's just kind of, he's just there. He's like, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
But he's not.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
And he played short scale basses. Is that correct?
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't.
viola basses. How many
He
viola
played that
basses have you
Hofner
on?
bass. Yeah, he played that Hofner bass, which was super thin and kind of cheap. And you know, I don't know. I read a story about it. He's like, I didn't have any money for a Fender or something back in the day, so he got this like cheap Hofner, and he was left-handed, so it was really easy to switch it over. But then he played Rickenbackers later and stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of went through the phases of like, oh, now they're an all Gibson band, or now they're an all Rick band, and
Yeah, they were in the Rick phase. What, when they were hanging out with the Monkees? I feel like that was the time there.
yeah, a little.
I don't know. I want to say I don't know about them hanging out with the Monkees, but early on, they got those. Rickenbacker. Maybe because are the Rickenbackers German, right?
Sounds German.
Sounds like a German name, right? Rickenbacker. So yeah, they played a lot of gigs in Hamburg and whatnot. So.
So the Beatles prompted you on playing bass. So once you found out, oh, it was the Beatles, or that was the bass that was doing that. So like, what happened after that?
Well, everything I started listening to, I kind of listened for that, and like then I would crack out my sister's AC/DC LPs, you know. And this was when I was a little kid. It would have been mid '80s, early '80s. So I was like listening to all her like, you know, Skynyrd and like classic rock and roll LPs, and I just kind of always listened to that, you know, focused in on that. But you know, Jimmy Page too, you know, it's not, you know, like when I listened to then everyone goes through the rush phase, and you're like, these drums are incredible and like incredibly technical. So I listened to all the different. I kind of broke it apart and listened to everything. So
What about John Paul Jones? Duh.
yeah,
Duh. Yeah.
yeah.
The Prince. I don't know.
Sting.
Nobody's called him that, huh? I just did.
Wow.
The Prince.
The Prince.
What? So McCartney's the governor. He's the Prince.
Yeah. So you got all into like the sound of the bass. How did you get your first bass? Tell us about your first bass.
It was like the worst piece of wood ever created. I don't know. I went to the guitar shop. I think it was $100, and I don't even remember. I was trying to like Google what it was. I think it was like CK or KC. It was just some no-name bass, and it was kind of sharp and point. It wasn't like really a metal. Like it didn't look like a metal guitar. It was just horrible, right? It was just a terrible thing. And I would plug it into a Panasonic jam box. That was my amp. I would get like an 1/8" converter, and then plug it into this jam box because I didn't have an amp. And then I would do it was a dual cassette jam box, and I'd have to like open both sides and record, like put my finger up under and hit the little record switch so it would think it was dubbing, so that it would monitor. It would think it was dubbing one tape to the other. I wouldn't have any tapes in it, but if you put your finger underneath it, then you could fake it into monitoring, and that's how I would get output. And so I would just totally distort this little tiny jam box. But it looked so uncool, right? Because I wasn't into those sharp metal looking guitars, like
What do you mean?
heavy metal look,
Okay.
like a Kramer or I wasn't really into those. So someone gave me this broken.
What about BC Rich?
Even more what I wasn't into, but somebody gave me this old busted Epiphone hollow body bass, so I took the bolt-on neck off of that.
Dude, modding on your first guitar.
And then I
that's
took
pretty-
it apart and put this, like it didn't fit, it was like totally different size. And then I cut off the arms, of the bass, so it was like this triangular shape, and it was just horrible.
Wait. So you just
Clipped its
you
wings.
sawed
its
off the horns.
The horn. What are those called? I don't even. Are they called?
The wings, the horns.
What are the things?
The
Maybe we're not
wings.
getting off to a good start because I don't even know what the.
They're called the horns.
They're called the horns. Okay, the horns.
Yeah,
I cut
horns,
off
whatever.
the horns.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
then it became Super Frankenstein, unknown bass with the Epiphone headstock.
What color was it?
It was black, but then it had like then I could see all the wood and the routing inside of it and everything. And so I painted that black with like a different kind of black. It wasn't.
Yes.
It was awful.
Yes.
But it worked. And God, I wish I had pictures of that thing.
Yeah,
I wish
that
I
would be
had some-
amazing if you actually still had that.
Yeah. Like I didn't even donate it. I just think I just like threw it away.
Burn it. Set it on fire.
Burn it
Set
in
it off
effigy.
to sea.
So anyway, that's my first bass. I miss it. Not really.
Man, how much did you pay for that originally?
It's like $100. I like talked my mom into it. I didn't have enough money for it. I had some money, but she like paid for the rest of it. This other kid had the same. I had the bass and it was black, and he bought the guitar, that was like the same brand, and it was white, but it was like an electric guitar. And we're like, yeah, we'll start a band and we'll have the same guitars, And I think we thought that was cool then, but then he played
so
guitar
cool.
for like, I don't know, 8 days, and then he gave up on it. But I kept going with it.
So you had your clipped wings guitar bass.
Yeah.
So then, how long did you have that?
No, not too much longer. Like, I think my mom felt sorry for me because I was using this like Frankenstein guitar, and like then I became like the bass player at our high school for the show choir. There was like this, and they needed a band. I was like, oh, I get out of school, class to go play bass, and I didn't have to like sing and dance or anything. I just played tunes. And so I think she was a little embarrassed that I was using this really crappy guitar, bass guitar. So for my birthday, she bought me a Squier,
Moving on up.
Japanese Squier. Like it was knockoff Precision.
Oh, so
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like an '89 Squire P bass knockoff, Japanese.
Color.
It's black with the
White pickguard.
No, it was there was no pickguard.
Oh,
it was just without sands, and it had
what kind of neck do you have on that? Maple neck.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you've been P-bass then since, huh?
No. So I had that.
Shut up, Jeff.
I traded that for a Ludwig drum kit, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, don't. No, I traded that for a Ludwig drum kit. And then started playing drums, and then later I bought what was after that? There was a Carvin. I went down.
That's expensive.
Went down the Carvin road for a little while. No, I'm sorry. In between
that's player's gear right there, brother.
there was an Ibanez Roadstar, and it was awesome. But it wasn't mine. It was just my roommate's. And he just let me like borrow it for like 4 years, and it was super cool. It had the P bass pickups in the front and the J bass in the back, and you kind of roll between them. It had a lot of attack.
It's interesting because I had a Fender, I think it was called Prophecy. It was mid-'90s. It was like an Ibanez Fender
That
combo.
sounds very metal.
It was, what's that?
That sounds like super metal or
No,
super proggy.
no.
Like
No.
the prophecy.
The prophecy.
Maybe more prog, but yeah, but it had that same kind of setup.
Like this. Yeah, kind of a...
Jay's looking up.
That's exactly
some-
it.
Jay's a minister of information for us.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Best of both
So-
worlds right there.
Wow.
Yeah, the roll switch between, you can kind of like get both of them on, one of them off.
So there's active then.
Yes.
Active pickups on that.
Oh, the prophecy is.
Roadstar
yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't.
Really? There's a bleed, or not a bleed, but a roll, a mix button, right? I mean, a mix
Yeah.
knob.
It's a Roadstar 2, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that they.
Actually.
Cool. So, so now you are predominantly sort of a half and half between electric and stand up, right?
Yeah, so I bought a 1939 Johann Nürnberg
Who?
upright bass.
Yeah.
Like for $250 when I was a senior in college, and it had been sitting in the
Dang.
music department unstrung. It was like falling apart. I paid $250, took it down to the Loft Violin Shop in Columbus.
Yeah.
The finest place you can go for
I
it.
guess it's worth mentioning that we are located in Columbus. We hadn't done that up to this point because that would have been a very long drive if you were
Columbus,
located
Ohio,
in
correct?
Arizona,
Georgia.
I suppose.
Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Utah.
So wait, a Johann
Nürnberg.
So when you said that, I think all of our collective eyebrows
Nürnberg.
went like, "Oh
Yeah.
my!"
Sounds very
But for $250, that sounds like it might be a kind of
It's a great
crap.
No, it is a piece of crap, but it was a great deal because it was still like $1,000. It's a plywood base, and it was made in Germany, and there's nothing.
Your love for Germany.
It's not that great,
Astounding.
but
Yeah.
now it's special to me. It got ripped off in New York, and I got it back. So now it's even super special, right?
No way.
Wait a minute. How'd you get it ripped off in New York?
So I was playing a gig, and we got lazy, and we were, I don't know, doing what you do after a show in New York. Went to a bar, and we left all our gear in the van, and then it got ripped off. But the interesting part is that my bass got ripped off, and some of the other, Gibson guitar, J50, I think is what it was. J45, sorry.
Yeah.
It got ripped off, and it got ripped off in daylight. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was still daylight, parked right in front of the hotel, the Holiday Inn in Soho, and got stolen. And then,
Jeez.
yeah, devastated. And so I posted a bunch of pictures of it, had a damaged spot on the side. It was kind of
Do you
recognizable.
need counseling after all this?
Dude, it was-
bass
I was-
nonsense
I-
in your life.
The Carvin, the Carvin got stolen. I was like, whoop-de-doo. I don't care about the Carvin. They're like, it was junk too.
What?
It was junk.
Carvin neck through? Like that's a player's guitar,
Yeah.
man. Like those
They have
are
all different
expensive.
levels too.
The one I had didn't really
expensive if you're when you're starting out. It was like, what, $700?
It's like 800.
Yeah.
It didn't have the sustain wasn't very good on it. It didn't really sustain very long.
Yeah, you don't sustain very long.
Yeah.
Wait a minute,
I'm talking too
I don't
much here.
actually know anything about.
Well, actually, I'm dying to know. Do you know what kind
If he
of or what's-
sustains very long?
Huh? No.
Okay.
About the Nuremberg.
Oh,
Was it? Do you know what scale that was?
three quarter. Yeah.
And you said it was German, made out of plywood,
Yeah. So,
or Spurholz? I looked it up.
just Spurholz.
The Spurholz. Have you seen my Spurholz bass? I'm missing it. I need it badly.
It's right here.
Yeah. Okay, enough of your bass. So
I got it back though.
You got it
Yeah.
back.
How did you
Yeah,
get it
that's the
back?
best
So
part
it
of the
got
story.
stolen. I put a bunch of pictures on the internet, and it had some distinguishing marks where it got damaged once before, and somebody repaired it. I put these
Yeah.
pictures on it. Turns out some guy bought it at a flea market in New Jersey 3 months later.
Holy crap.
Looked it up, and because there weren't that many of them, he put Nuremberg. Johann. There's a little tag inside. You can see when you look at the F hole.
I think he just called you an F-hole, Aaron.
I know.
You F hole. And when he did that, the first thing that came up on the internet was stolen bass. And so he contacted me.
That's
and then
pretty sweet.
My insurance company, it was covered under home insurance, and they bought it back. It cost, he bought it for like, I don't know, $500 or something. It was valued at around $3,000, and then they shipped it back to me. Insurance company bought it back from him, shipped it back, and happy ending. So
Amazing.
I have it back, and now I'm
Amazing
not
story.
lazy with it anymore. I never leave it anywhere.
How often does that ever happen?
I don't know. Nobody else's stuff was recovered. We went to the cops while we were in New
Jeez.
York, and he's like, where were the instruments? We're like, well, in the van. He's like,
Idiot.
he's like, this is New York City, right? And he's like, why would you leave him in a freaking van
You
in New York City? Like,
F-holes.
I don't know, because we're stupid. And he's like, you are an
Did
idiot.
he call you an F-hole?
He was a guitar player, so he was like,
Oh, yeah.
he was like freaking. He's like, I can't believe you guys left your. He's like, first of all, I can't believe you left your gear in a van in New York City, ever.
Yeah.
Not even for like 1 minute.
Yeah.
He's like, secondly, it was 22 degrees out last night. He's like, I'm a guitar player. You never leave a piece of wood in a car when it's 22 degrees out. And I'm like, man, I'm an idiot. We are idiots.
Have any of you guys gotten gear stolen at a gig?
I think
Better grab some wood to knock on real quick on this.
some microphones, mic cables. I think that's been about the worst of it for me.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
even,
that's-
I don't
that's
wanna
no
answer
upright
that 'cause
bass,
I
I
don't
can
wanna
tell you
jinx
that.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously loads of horror stories that I'm sure each of us have friends who have lost a lot. It's super sad when you hear about like a touring band who's like everything gets stolen, and if you're touring, you're living on pennies. It's awful. It's cardinal sin. Hefe,
Yes, sir.
let's hear your story now.
Where am I starting?
You're starting with
The beginning.
How long
You're-
I've been playing.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like you got a guitar. Why
Yes. So,
and when?
yeah, when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, it was Eddie Van Halen that prompted me into the whole scenario.
Wait, who? Eddie?
Eddie Van Halen, another German. I think.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's Dutch.
Well, his son's named Wolfgang, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It would be Von Halen, right? If
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's inspired me to pick it up. First one was the what was that thing? A Harmony. I think
That's a brand name?
Yeah, Harmony. They're still around. I think.
serious?
Where am
What are
I?
you talking about?
Yeah.
Were they
It's
made by
like
Sears?
every
Oh,
other
yeah, I
guitar
can-
on
yeah, I've
Craigslist,
dialed the
man.
logo
And it's
up in
usually
my
like
head
some
now.
really
Sorry.
crappy like old acoustic or arch
Yeah.
top or
They're junk. Yeah.
But no, well, so here's the interesting thing. Like there are the super crappy ones, and they're like actually really good ones. Like if you go if you're checking out Chicago Guitar Exchange or something, like there's legit harmonies on there that look, I'm sure
maybe.
play amazing, and they're amazing prices too.
yeah, I never investigated after that.
That's not a
after that
knock on
guitar.
Chicago, Exchange. That's actually like a fantastic.
Knock.
Yeah, it's not Chicago Guitar Exchange. Sorry, that's Chicago Music Exchange.
There you go.
My bad.
Yeah, so I asked for it for Christmas.
That's ChicagoMusicExchange.com.
And showed up. Santa Claus was nice. Brought it in. I think it came from Service Merchandise at the time, which was like, your mall retailer way back in the day.
Layaway, right?
Layaway. Yeah. I don't know if it needed to be laid away. I think it was like $55 plus I think
that's a lot of
a Gorilla amp.
Bro.
Yeah. A little
Gorilla amp.
Yeah. It was like a little 8-inch speaker or something in that thing. Horrible sounding. So yeah, that was the beginning.
What did it look like?
It looked like it was a sunburst, very Fendery looking guitar. Nothing
Well, what
special
kind
about
of
it.
sunburst we talking?
Tobacco.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was all right. It's all right.
That's kind of mature for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Not really.
Well, think about it. It's like your first guitar, you're like, I want a red guitar, or...
Yeah, there was, I think
like
there was...
That's
there
kinda,
it is. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Minister of Information, Jay, pulled it up.
And what's it say?
It says, what's the ugliest
What's the ugliest
the title of this
you?
guitar?
I think that's awesome.
I don't know. That's
looking.
kind of cool looking.
That's it's totally like late 60s Japanese style.
It is.
Yeah,
very
and I totally
Japanese
want one
style.
now that I'm looking at
Yeah,
a
it's
picture.
got the switches.
Yeah, the old
those
pickup switches at the bottom.
I like that. I think that's really great. So, and the burst on it's actually pretty nice. It's got a little bit of red glow on it
it's
too,
not
so
horrible.
it's not like And look, so okay, now I just heard something about this. To see those pickups on there, I can't remember where I was hearing this, but so those pickups are super wide.
Yeah.
On that guitar, and from what I remember hearing, there was like they just made all these pickups like at one size, so that I'm trying to remember the reason why.
Probably like
I can't remember
just because they're
the reason why.
generic and mass quantity, right? So
Yeah, it had something to do with the mass quantity, because they were like absurdly wide pickups for that actual guitar. Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, if I saw that on Craigslist, I'd probably want to snag one.
They're probably like airplane parts or something. They probably made the pickups out of like leftover
War-torn airplanes.
Yeah,
That'd be kinda cool, actually.
auto parts or
Yeah, interesting. So you got that brand new out of the box.
Oh yeah, brand new, out of the box. That lasted.
Did it come in a box?
Well,
I mean,
it came in a gift wrap
That's
box.
kind of unique for a first
Yeah.
guitar to get a brand like. Has anybody else got a brand new guitar
Nope.
like for their first one?
Nope.
No.
Oh, poor
I mean, sometimes that takes like a few guitars to get into before you get a brand new one for.
True, yeah. I mean, it was cheap. It wasn't expensive at all. I mean,
you probably cherished it though as a kid, man. You're
yeah,
like,
it was amazing.
This is like
best thing ever. Until I actually played a different guitar and like, this thing is
horrible.
oh, I got to get rid of this. Which happened, and then I got a G&L from my uncle, who had it under his bed for years. He never played it. He's like, when he was younger, he tried to play and he gave up. And he's like,
Well, it's probably tough to play it under the bed.
it's hard to play under the bed.
Hey.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
He's like, hey, you want this thing? I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. And it was, again, super cheap because it came from him. And it was a sweet G&L guitar.
Well, G&Ls were sweet.
I know.
Yeah.
So
The new Fender, right?
this
That's
was,
like
back in the 80s.
Color.
Red. Candy apple.
Did it have the staggered pickups? Like,
Oh, boy, I can't remember.
the GNLs. Some of the GNLs have the the staggered offset pickups.
Can't remember. It's been so long. I mean, it is very Stratocaster-y.
Minister of Information is
We are
looking
looking
that up.
it up now.
None of those look right.
These are 80s.
So you kept that for a while.
Yeah, I kept that one for a long time, and then long time, kept for a long time, and then I moved into closer to the Idol Van Halen, and had to get a Kramer. So the Kramer was the one I had to buy myself when it was. Are you really serious about doing this? I'm like, yeah, you got to buy your next one. So I bought that one myself.
How old were
Kramer
you at that
Focus, 5,000, 6,000. 15.
Did you have like
16.
a job? How are
I
you?
did.
How are you?
I did have a job.
What was it?
I
hooking?
was not that. Was not.
Checking on the.
I cleaned, cut lawn, all the stuff kids do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. But I don't remember the exact time or how old I was when I bought it, but it was probably.
You had to do a lot of lawns and shoveling driveways, right?
It was like $450. So it's not crazy, but it's like a couple
That's
years.
a lot of money if you're.
Yeah,
It's like
15-year-old
3
kid.
years
I
of
don't think I ever
savings.
owned anything over $100 until I was like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saved for years for that thing. So that was awesome. There it is.
Which one? Did it have the offset pickup there?
It's that one up there.
This one?
Yeah.
Let's look at it here.
Wowzers.
So the first
Kramer Focus 6000.
vibrato bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
locking.
Now that's
tuners.
that's a Floyd Rose in that.
Yeah, Floyd Rose.
Nice.
So that was-
locking tuners.
Well, locking nut, I should say. Not
Yeah,
locking
I don't.
tuners.
They didn't have locking. I don't think they had locking tuners back then, did they?
Don't know.
Oh, Minister of Information is going to have to look that one up. Oh, speaking
question?
of looking
When
up
locking
from the
tuners
Ministry
came
of
out.
Information,
Yes.
we've
the
been background checking on Beatles gear as we've been talking, and there's actually a site called thebeatlesgear.com that goes into great detail about what and when they had their gear, and it's not as clean as I think most of us think. There's sprinklings of different brands pretty early on.
It's really cool how they show the images, though.
Year to year.
Yeah.
When you click on the image, it actually shows.
It seems
all that
like
gear laid
64
out.
was when they introduced the Ricks.
Yeah.
And then they got into the Gibsons around 66, it looks like. But if you're listening to this, hopefully you are, you can go and check it out. It's actually a really cool site. It's got a lot of really great information. Oh, they got some in 65, that's when they got some of the crazy Vox ones.
Look at all that.
Good
Yeah,
grief.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a lot of gear.
That's amazing.
Yeah, gear. Okay, so awesome. So you got a Kramer. You're rocking
Yes,
out.
Kramer.
You are Eddie Van Halen.
Used that for a long time. Went into the small half stack, the Laney.
Jeez,
Yeah.
dude, you
Those
were
are solid state though, right?
No, this was
Laney
two.
was two?
This was two.
and
Laney.
and you're how old at this time?
This was like 17, 18.
Still 17 with like a full blown Kramer and a
Yes.
Laney amp. That's
Yes.
impressive.
It was.
I'm impressed.
That was the best time of my career as a musician.
That was the plateaued a little early, maybe.
Yeah. It's when I could play the best in my articulate fast. It was like all this stuff was back then, and then it slowly
But
disappeared as I got older.
But I mean, in perspective, that like when you're early on, you are probably less focused on trying to get it righter, doing things better. You're just trying to do it.
Definitely,
So
yeah, you're
just the excitement of like I'm doing it
Yeah.
is that's when you kind
Totally.
of ride high on
When you
that
remember
stuff.
you finally hit like one riff, you've been like playing it for like
Oh, yeah.
over and over and over for like hours and hours, and then that one time when you hit it, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was like the
that inspires more hours of
the first official gig was my cousin's graduation party.
Awesome.
So he had a band. My cousin was a drummer, and he was a drummer like since he was 10 years old. So like I'd go over there and watch him play with all his buddies, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. So he's like, hey, why don't you come over and play at my graduation with us? I'm like, yes, that would be awesome. So I got up there with for one song. Plugged me in. I couldn't hear anything I played. Nothing. Couldn't hear one thing at all. And we were playing like the one. He's like, "What song do we all know?" And I think it was Crazy Train. So it's like, let's play Crazy Train.
That's a little more advanced.
It was super advanced, and it's like,
I thought you were gonna say like Smoke on the Water or something like. Something
no, Crazy Train with full solo. So that was
no pressure.
That was a good time. Of course, I couldn't hear one note of it, but everyone said it sounded great. I sure doubt that, but that was the first gig ever. Yeah.
Nice.
So from there, it was I had that one for a long time, and then it became I want something customized, so it was onto a Warmoth product. So I was all about building, and I wanted it to be perfect, and I wanted all the attributes that I wanted in a guitar. I wanted short scale, like all these kind of things. So like for the price, and I get to put it all together, that sounds like a blast. So that was my last guitar, and I still have it to this day. So
Riveting.
I can't wait to hear your story. It's going to be fabulous.
All right, Cookie, what do you got?
Let's see. The year was 93.
I'm not calling it. That's not a term of endearment either. I mean, his last name's Cook, so it's okay. We can do that.
It can also be a
Only
term for endearment as well.
Cookie with an
love
I,
it.
not an IE, I guess. That's, I mean, a Y. Cookie with a Y. Okay.
I's good.
You
It's
like
better.
it? All right.
Yeah, so it was 93. And at that point, I was 16 years old. And I had my first job, which was bagging groceries. So, I had an income, at the sweet age of 16. So, I didn't really know what I wanted to get. If it was, a 6-string, if it was a bass. I had friends that had both. And I don't know. At that point, I was really starting to get into Primus. So because of that, I ended up going with the bass.
They suck.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, actually, they don't want you saying that anymore. They've outgrown that. Les has yelled at
Whatever.
crowds.
He's like, I actually don't suck.
Yeah.
Sorry. The guy's got a ridiculous mustache. We can say they suck. It's cool. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like really at that time, Claypool, and then I was hot on the Chili Peppers. So naturally, Flea and Les Claypool.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I did say that, didn't I?
You did.
Okay. So, it went down to a place called Gattuso's Music Store in Canton, Ohio. No idea if they're still around or not, but what I ended up getting...
That's going to be the first stop on the historic Guitar Knobs
I'm going to
tour.
look it up. Gattuso's?
Gattuso's.
G or...
Yeah, Gattu.
You should go there. You might have a sandwich named after yourself.
I doubt it.
Gattuso's Music.
Still there?
Is it still there?
Holy moly.
Canton.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Good old Canton.
And Chris Wintrip works there. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but that's another story for another day.
Well, maybe not.
So
I don't know if there's another day.
I don't think there's
This is
a
it.
story there.
The end is nigh.
Okay.
So my first bass that I selected was it was called a Fender HM bass, and it's not really a popular model. And if you try to research it online, you'll find it, but it's still it seems to be rare. It was black. The body was black. The headstock was black. It was actually, quite frankly, a beautiful bass, and had a wonderful rosewood fretboard on it. And really, it was a great bass just because in that you could dial in a lot of different tones. So it was quite versatile. And I don't know, it felt right. It felt good. So that was it. So I was off and running on bass, and so really I was taking lessons at that time. And I remember giving myself kind of like this ultimatum, maybe about 6 months in. I'm like, you know what? If I don't get better on bass, I should just move to guitar. So, I told myself that, and then ended up...
But isn't guitar like way harder?
Yeah.
You're like,
Well, wait a minute. I think you might have just insulted every bass player out there.
No, I mean,
really?
well, let me. As I'm a bass player, I'm allowed to say that.
I think it's harder, and I
Yeah.
play both, but...
Yeah, I mean, you can play either one difficultly. Is that the right word? Is that a
It
word?
is now.
Right.
But it's like I don't know. I always thought guitar was more difficult. Could be more difficult, like at
There's more
certain.
stuff
You
gotta
can play a
focus on.
song on bass
boy.
by just hanging out on
I'm-
root notes, right?
Right? Yeah, you can just exactly.
But
That's what I mean.
Guitar, I mean, you're bending
Yeah.
and morphing your fingers into weird things,
Yeah.
positions and such. So
Chording
Yeah,
definitely is a struggle.
The idea of like playing guitar in your mind is awesome, and then when you first start to learn chords, you're like, this is awful.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you can play like a bass. You're like, when I first started playing, I was just like, use my all 4 fingers on one like one fret,
Yeah,
and then move
right.
around,
Yep.
and so
Yep.
it was easier to get started. And maybe that's what I meant to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
Oh,
We're with you, dude.
We derailed.
Bring us home.
Oh. So yeah, my first guitar ended up being I went cheap, and this was actually it was a new
That
guitar.
doesn't seem like you at all.
But it was what are you saying? It was a Washburn. I really went
so
for
early
it.
Washburn or like the late newer? I mean, it wouldn't be newer because it was
Well,
back
at the
then.
time it was brand new. It was a
Yeah.
brand new Washburn.
Okay.
So
Washburn, what? Remember?
I have no idea. It was also like a tobacco burst.
Body style, is it like a double cutaway, single
Yeah,
cutaway?
from what I remember, it was more like a Strat sort of body shape.
Oh, Strat. Okay.
Yeah,
But I typically associate Washburns with more like Gibson style guitars. More so, not that there's any basis for that. I guess maybe just every single one I've seen is kind of like based off of more of a Fender. So.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So
All right,
yeah,
so, I mean, sorry, I'm not Fender style, but Gibson style.
right.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like most of them, like,
I've always associate more with the like more modern Fender style,
yeah.
but
Washburns had those little tiny headstocks on there. Like,
they got
Not
such
all
a
of them.
some
variety.
of them
They're
are
kind of all over the place. Maybe that's a trouble. They don't really have.
No identity.
I always liked them though. I always thought
Yeah.
they were neat looking. I never had one.
do
It
have
actually
one.
played very well. As an out of the box guitar, I don't think I had any work done to it to get it set up or anything. But that's on that guitar is actually is the place where I
Wood.
Or the mics are on, Jeff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the wood on this thing.
Yeah, but because of that Washburn, I can now change from an open C chord to an open G chord. I'm pretty good at that.
Nice.
Really?
Ooh.
Upside down.
Yeah,
That's what you had?
no, I did not have that. That's actually a
He's
beautiful.
pointing at
Washburn.
a highly quilted top super player guitar with like a gold Floyd Rose and all that business.
Gold hardware.
Yeah.
Gold janglies everywhere.
All right, cool.
So yeah, throughout my career, if you will, the last 22, 23 years.
So you're 47?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I forget what I was going to say. Yeah, I just
wait. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
just a slew of guitars, slew of basses, and within the last number of years, it's like I've kind of trimmed the fat, if you will. So
Yeah.
I mean, you basically sold everything
yeah,
except for something to buy a what?
a pedal steel. Yeah, that's. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah,
So yeah, I last year, I sold a bunch of equipment that I had because I was in a band a while back, and when I quit that band when my daughter was born, all the stuff was just kind of sitting around from those days. So I took all that stuff to Music Go Around, got a nice $950 check from them, which I turned right around and bought a student model pedal steel. So,
Which is the easiest instrument to learn.
no,
how to play.
yeah, exactly, because
It's much easier than bass.
literally,
Well, what have I done?
literally nothing translates from a 6-string guitar to a 10-string pedal steel.
That's mental. Why? I don't understand. Like
But-
when you watch those guys, there's a reason there's only like a handful of guys that actually do that well.
Right. And no, I mean, I was honest.
This isn't pedals. This is lap steel, right?
No, I'm not talking lap steel. This
Yeah.
is full on pedals. I have
Pedals
3
and
pedals,
knee things,
3
right?
pedals,
Holy
4 knee levers on that thing. It's so cool. I mean,
Yeah, I mean they sound amazing. They're like whenever you're watching something live, if you're watching like Austin City Limits or something,
Yeah.
and there's a guy up there,
Yep.
and they haven't put the spotlight on him yet, and it's coming, and he hits that, and it's just like, oh man,
it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard come out of a stringed instrument. In my
wow,
mind.
that's quite a statement.
It is pretty bold, but yeah, and honestly, it's like I spent like the first month with that thing. Once I put the kids to bed, I was up.
Is that a euphemism?
No,
Okay.
literally putting my children, my offspring.
That's not like dropping them off at the pool. Right?
Yeah, I would just once they were in bed, I would just go and play that thing. Within a month, I was starting to get something that started to resemble pedal steel music or sounds. So, but still, I really even at this point, I've only barely scratched the surface. So,
And are you attempting this all on your own? Do you have lessons?
Well, that's the thing. It's like I don't know of anyone who even gives pedal steel lessons. Let alone in Columbus,
really
Ohio. So yeah, it's like it's really just trying to find any and all kind of resources online. I've purchased some lessons.
There's that guy Left Feet Nelson.
What?
He does it.
Do you think he'll give me lessons?
Just giving you-
Yeah,
Sounds like a great teacher.
That sounds like a guy who would
it's
teach
left field.
like pedal
Or
steel.
blind, you got to be blind or one, blind Willie.
Blind Harry Johnson.
Yeah. Isn't that how it goes?
Hang
yeah,
on.
yeah. Hey,
So
no.
wait, we gotta make sure we can get this through Apple. So
Yeah. Edit that out.
okay,
Yeah. So
cool.
yeah,
All
and
blues players
ultimately
are
where I've landed is just I'm not the biggest gearhead. I guess somehow I've always been more intrigued on how sound or songs are composed or how music is composed. So it's I've learned to play
I can
a lot of.
demystify that for you right now. Paper is one of the bigger mediums of composing music.
Have you ever tried to write a song on paper?
Cookie, I'm gonna wrap you
Yeah,
up right now.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Ramble on. Not that you
Okay,
were.
so my first guitar was I don't even think it had a name on a headstock, but it was essentially a Les Paul Sunburst ripoff. Awful red, like bright yellow Sunburst. Had a white pick guard, and it was flat top, so it wasn't arch top. I mean, it was as
Epiphone?
rippy. It was as rip off as you can get, but as poorly done of a rip off as you can get. But I traded a dude a skateboard for it. An old friend named Darren, R.I.P. Darren, and he. I saw the guitar and it was always sitting in the corner of his room. He shared a room with his big brother, and I don't think he liked him a whole lot. And he said, "Yeah, it's my brother's." And I said, "Dude, you want to sell it?" And he said, "Trade you your skateboard." So I'm like, "Cool." So I think I got his brother's skateboard, and I took it home. And true to it's interesting that patterns you establish early on, how they carry through. So within maybe about 5 days of having it, I'm like, I have to make this thing way cooler than it is. So I took all the hardware off. This is my first time, 15.
Hell
Took
yeah.
all the hardware off and painted it white. I painted it all white with
the
a
house
spray
paint,
What,
with
like
the brush,
Krylon?
spray
with,
paint.
with spray paint.
All right.
And but here's the kicker. I did a whole bunch of other colors under it first, and then I put tape down, and I don't mean painter's tape. I'm talking like Scotch tape, because I didn't have any other kind of. And I'd seen how you could cut it out and make shapes. So essentially, I laid down. I masked these really, really bad flames on the front.
Ooh, this sounds
You know,
nice.
I know.
right?
I'm in.
And then
I'm in.
And then I spray painted it because as soon as I pull off the tape, the like these amazing rock and roll flames of all kinds of colors are going to be there. Mm-hmm. And I kept spraying it, and I kept spraying it, and it wasn't getting shiny. It was getting orange peely and stuff. And so I just figured you have to keep spraying it. So I kept spraying it and kept spraying it. And then when I went to take off the tape, like it wouldn't come off because it's covered in 6 layers of paint. So then I'm cutting around the paint, and I finally pull it off. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awful. This is so awful. I can't believe I've done this. I actually sold that guitar.
As is.
I sold it as is. Parts, I put all the parts back on, and I convinced another kid
This is awesome.
that he needs to buy my guitar. But that's been like my lot. Like I've bought and sold like so many guitars. It's silly. And
Yeah, that's like your game, isn't it?
yeah, I'm
Huckleberry
kind of
Finn
addicted
moment.
to it.
No, man, these flames are alien flames. They're
Flames
awesome.
are awesome. And so I sold that, and then I went to there was a thing called the Recycler newspaper, and it was like only a want ads kind of newspaper at the time, and this is obviously way before internet and everything. And so I looked in there, and I looked at price point only. I was like, I think I got like $45 for it, and I picked up a JB player, baby blue, like Randy Rhodes style offset guitar, and from there,
Baby blue.
baby blue. I know.
You like these nice
It was-
pastel colors.
It was weird. It was weird. But I mean, dude, like on my second guitar, I got an offset Randy Rhodes style guitar. That was wicked. I wasn't playing anything that fit that. I was like really into early cult and stuff like that, and some Judas Priest and junk and Echo and the Bunnymen, because that all goes together.
Right.
It does. Definitely.
I was Echo
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, I mean, Echo's fantastic. Anyways, we're not getting into that.
Wimp rock. It was wimp rock, but I was into it. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
So I got that, and that's what I started to learn how to play guitar on. I sold that. I can't remember how much, but I didn't have that super long because I realized it was stupid.
Wise
And realized that, like, I was watching videos and stuff, and I was like, no, but these guys aren't playing the guitars that look like mine. And I'd go to other, that's when you start networking with other kids that are playing guitars, or, that's the natural progression. Like, well, I play too. You should come over and we'll make a band. And then you go and everybody looks at your guitar like, what are you doing?
Not in
So
this
I sold
band.
that for a black Aria.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Aria 2 Pro. Aria Pro 2, I think it was called. Sort of a Strat style. And that was cool. I had that for a while. And it was all black pick guard. Wait, actually, I don't think it even had a pick guard, but it was all black. Everything was black.
Headstock.
Headstock was
thing.
black. Yeah, painted headstock. It was really cool. It was didn't have active pickups or anything like that, and I think it had more of it was like a Fender tremolo system, so a Fender style, so that, like, just flat. It wasn't a floating tremolo or anything like that. And that was great, and that's what I started to learn most of my guitar on, until I realized I needed to get more better stuff, and that just kept going and going and going.
So
But that's a whole other talk.
Where did bass come in then, in your world?
Bass came in much later, but I think we should probably save that, because I think that's what we're going to talk about, like influences in some later podcasts. And
All right.
podcasts,
Podcast.
Yeah, it works for me.
apostrophe.
That
S?
works for me.
Podcast.
Yeah.
I.
Okay, well, we are going to wrap this one up. This is our first one.
Yeah.
I hope you liked it. We liked it.
Yeah.
It was fun. We intend to do a whole lot more. And if you have any questions or comments, then we're going to give you links to submit that and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said.
What he said.
Dude,
Damn it.
All right.
Did you say that we're the guitar knobs? Do people know that now?
Well, they do now. You just said it again.
Well, I want to make sure because
There's a little icon and a head and a title above it too.
Yeah.
Because our we don't have
So
T-shirts out, right?
But we
So
will
it's
have T-shirts.
Oh yeah.
So it
So
is
yes.
guitar knobs.
Huh?
So it is guitar knobs then?
Yeah, we settled on guitar knobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
was.
it is.
We already
So,
talked about
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Guitar knobs then.
Knobs. Is it with a Z? No.
No.
It's not the F-holes.
Feel like
This is not
definitely
LA 88,
knobs
bro.
with a Z. It's an S. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
making sure.
Yeah.
All right. You're lovely people. Oh, that's it for these knobs. Please join us on Facebook.com/groups/guitar knobs and tell us what you think and share your stories and guitar stuff along with ours. You can also find us at twitter.com/guitar_knobs and also at our website at guitarknobs.podbean.com.